So thank you, everyone, and good morning. I'm Stephen Powers, co-founder and COO of Emergency Safety Solutions, an advanced warning communication safety feature provider to the automotive industry. ESS appreciates the opportunity to publicly comment on the uniform procedures for safety highway grant programs today. I will be speaking to topics relevant to Section 405 grants, equity, and the National Roadway Safety Strategy today. I intend to take this opportunity to especially encourage the agency to take focused and due care to streamline and make efficient the administration of Section 405 grants, as well as to express the importance of fully investing all funds authorized for their intended legislative purposes. In many cases, citizens' lives are on the line, and they are awaiting federal government support to advance solutions that will reduce crashes and injuries and save lives. I'd like to highlight the importance of this by zooming into a critical component of Section 24105 of the Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act entitled Preventing Roadside Deaths. My company is wholly focused on a massive safety case that is associated with this section of law. So I'd like to start by providing insight into the problem, some of the root causes, some of the solutions that my company and others are working on, and of course, speaking into today's objective, how all of this translates to the critical need for highly efficient deployment of Section 405 grants and the like to solve this and other crucial problems on our roadways, as provided for in not only the recently passed infrastructure law, but in past, present, and future laws that provide state grants, state grant funding for roadway safety initiatives. We created ESS after my co-founder, David Tucker, was nearly struck and killed while attending to his disabled vehicle in 2014. His vehicle was broken down on the shoulder of a highway in Montana one evening. Dave had turned on his hazard lamps and climbed under the vehicle to assess a problem when an 18-wheeler veered over, struck the side of his vehicle, and took off his side view mirror, mere inches away from my partner. I almost lost a dear friend that day. It turns out that the incident and near tragedy that Dave experienced that evening happens far more often than most people realize. We commissioned Impact Research to perform an 11-year study of crashes whereby moving vehicles strike stationary disabled vehicles and or the people attending to those disabled vehicles on or near the roadway across the U.S. At the conclusion of their data investigation, Impact Research published a peer-reviewed report on this on 11 years of NHTSA's FARS data and several years of relevant CRIS data, and unearthed a shocking set of revelations that had been previously hidden inside NHTSA's data for decades. Between the years of 2016 and 2018, an average of 72,000 people were involved in preventable collisions between moving vehicles and stationary vehicles or the people attending to them. For contextualized scale, that's about 200 people per day involved in these types of incidents. These are folks who have broken down, run out of gas, gotten a flat tire, have been in a crash, and then were struck in a secondary collision while waiting for help to arrive, people involved in multi-car pileups, and the like. Out of these 72,000 people, over 15,000 of them, or 40 people per day, were either injured or killed in these incidents. Over 40 people will not make it home safely to their loved ones, safe and sound today, on May 4th, 2022, on account of them or another roadway user simply having car trouble on the roadway. To put the fatality data into context, we are all familiar with the issue of emergency responders dying and struck by collisions. In fact, according to Emergency Responder Safety Institute statistics, 2021 was the deadliest year on record for emergency responders struck by incidents. 65 brave emergency responders were killed last year while on scene and stationary on the roadway, responding to an incident. There are rightfully entire safety organizations and policy working groups that are singularly focused and passionately focused on solving the emergency responder struck by death issue. What is far less known, however, is that we also lose over 10 times this number of civilians in the same types of incidents. In other words, the actual number of struck by collision deaths is over 11 times larger than anyone historically has thought it is. 11 times larger. To make matters worse, this problem is growing at a steady rate of 10% per year, which means that if you extrapolate these numbers from circa 2017, we can expect the tallies to be over 115,000 people involved and over 24,000 killed or injured in these scenarios this year in 2022. In addition to being a grossly unaddressed roadway safety problem, this safety case also represents a significant equity issue. 80% of the victims of fatal crashes involving a disabled vehicle are from households that earn under the U.S. median income. And while African Americans represent just over 12% of the U.S. population and 9% of the roadway population today, they represented 19% of the victims of these fatal disabled vehicle crashes during the studied period. In other words, a black person is twice as likely to be a victim of a fatal disabled vehicle crash incident than the general population. When you break it down even further, black people are 2.5 times more likely than the general population to be struck and killed while attending to their disabled vehicle. That's getting killed while simply changing a tire, trying to fix a broken down vehicle, and the like. This is happening to black Americans more likely than average. This is happening to them because they are more likely than average to be economically disadvantaged, so are more likely to run out of gas or suffer engine failure or have a flat tire. And a disproportionate number of black Americans work in essential service jobs and do shift work that puts them on the road for their commute after dark, which is when the overwhelming number of these incidents occur. So stepping back, why is all of this happening? First and foremost, it took a long and expensive deep dive into FARS, CRIS, and even police report data to even be able to quantify this safety case. No one realized that we had such a massive safety problem because it is masked by the way the data is currently reported and cut today. This analysis only happened because a private citizen, David Tucker, nearly lost his life, cared to look into it more deeply, and then built a team that was willing to invest resources into digging into the safety case. That needs to change. We should be collecting valuable information like this in normal due course, and it makes me wonder how many other addressable safety cases have been flying under the radar unnoticed like this. Second, the reason this problem takes so many more civilian lives than emergency responder lives is that we rely on one of the oldest and least effective features built into our cars today as our safety communication beacon, the hazard warning system. This is a system that was invented in 1951, over 70 years ago, and it was mandated as a required equipment over a decade later. But the safety data that I just quoted proves the hazard warning system provides woefully inadequate warning to oncoming drivers. To make matters worse, we have actually deployed technology on our roadways that is superior to the 1 to 2 hertz flash rate emitted by our hazard warning lamps. We protect our emergency responders, tow truck drivers, roadway workers, construction crews, snow plows, and the like with advanced lighting that flashes in patterns, frequencies, duty cycles, colors, and intensities that are designed and scientifically proven to grab the attention of oncoming drivers and communicate a much higher sense of urgency than the inferior and inadequate hazard warning system. The reason that the civilian crash, injury, and fatality rates from struck by collisions are 10 times that of emergency responders is simple. It's the stark difference in efficacy between hazard lighting and emergency lighting. Now, this is not to downplay the unacceptable magnitude of emergency responders struck by collisions. Move-over law policies and the deployment of digital alerting technology to supplement their emergency lighting represent tremendous opportunities to reduce the 65 fatalities down to nearly zero. We not only support these measures fundamentally, but we have taken the position that the exact same measures need to be extended to the civilian population. When a person is sitting in a stationary vehicle on the roadway or standing outside of one, it does not matter if that person is wearing a uniform, a badge, a hard hat, or a Little League soccer form. They are in a very dangerous position. Struck by crashes are struck by crashes, and they are preventable, and the stakes cannot be any higher. So that's an overview of the problem and a glimpse into root causes. But what can we do about this? The solution is straightforward. We extend proven technologies to currently unprotected roadway users and using equipment that's already built into passenger and commercial vehicles today, which makes it incredibly affordable. You see, these incidents are not homicides. People are crashing into stationary vehicles along the roadway because they do not notice them until it's too late to safely respond and avoid them. Yes, our roadways are becoming more and more crowded and are full of drivers going at increasing rates of speed, driven by drivers who are more distracted than ever before. But with better communication than 1950s technology, we can provide drastically better advanced warning to oncoming drivers using scientifically validated communication techniques that snap people out of distraction so that they have a fighting chance to notice the 2-ton-plus stationary object full of human lives that they are approaching at highway speeds, to react to that and to safely avoid them. At ESS, we've developed a solution that can be cheaply and easily deployed as standard equipment on every new vehicle sold in the country that uses human factors optimized conspicuous lighting communication, as well as broadly distributed platform-agnostic digital alerts to provide oncoming drivers with 2 forms of advanced warning simultaneously of the disabled vehicle hazard. Our lighting feature set was validated compliant by NHTSA via an interpretation letter last year and has been proven to provide significant level of driver response efficacy by Virginia Tech in a report that we expect to be released by their VTTI group in a few weeks' time. The digital alerting feature set leverages a cloud platform that is already used by over 12,000 emergency responder fleets, federal fleets, and was developed in part through cooperation with DHS. This part of the solution feature set sends audible and visual alerts to oncoming drivers, navigation apps, and as pop-up messages in their vehicle's head unit and other in-dash displays. We are working with automakers to implement this technology suite into future vehicles, which of course never happens quickly enough. Now, I know we're not here to talk about ways to hasten automaker implementation of life-saving technologies. That's another can of worms for another day. But we are here to comment on the efficient administration of state grants and the like. However, it is important to note that the deployment of safety technologies into state and municipal fleets serves 2 purposes. 1, it directly protects the government employee drivers of those fleets. And 2, perhaps even more importantly, it clearly demonstrates to automakers the importance that federal, state, and local governments place on the safety problem that the 405 technology deployments are designed to mitigate. It is a very clear message to the industry about what is most important to us on our roadways, which is safety. Due to that influencing effect, and against the backdrop of a safety problem that kills and injures over 40 people a day and will continue to kill and injure over 40 people per day until countermeasure features are built into every car, truck, and commercial vehicle sold, the efficiency of state grant administration is paramount. The stakes are incredibly high. The section entitled Preventing Roadside Deaths in Section 24105 of this administration's infrastructure law provides funding to, quote, prevent death and injury from crashes involving motor vehicles striking other vehicles and individuals stopped at the roadside, end quote. The objective here cannot be made more clear. What about the practical application? Well, the law does this by providing Section 405 grant funding to, quote, pilot and incentivize measures including optical visibility measures to increase the visibility of stopped and disabled vehicles, end quote, as well as to purchase digital alerting technologies for similar purposes. The word pilot is important here. It is recognition that government implementation of technologies and other Section 405 granted actions serve to encourage the private sector to address some of our most critical roadway safety problems. With stakes this high, we humbly encourage the agency to fully spend all duly authorized Section 405 investment dollars, past and present, and to do so with laser focus, clarity of objective, and urgency warranted by the criticality of these safety problems. Thank you so much for allowing me to provide ESS's support for your important work in this area today. Back over to you, Carl.